Okay, so yeah, I would like to start by congratulating you upon the success for the application, and basically just one thing I would like you to start with is you introduce yourself basically to the IMF users and followers who don't know you at the moment.
Okay. Hello everyone. So I'm a Kali developer. Uh, I'm working mostly now on Kigami application. So for Plasma Mobile, one of the example is NeoChat. But I also maintain most of the websites in KDE infrastructures. So all the promotion stuff around the websites and the theming and everything on the websites. Depending.
Okay, that sounds lovely. So anyway, going to our first question, could you please tell us more about the NeoChat application and what are some of like the most interesting features that you find NeoChat to have?
So NeoChat is a client for Matrix. Matrix is a communication protocol what is decentralized, so that not everyone is on the same server. And NeoChat is a client what I made for Plasma Mobile and Plasma Desktop, and as well as a primary target platforms. But it was also ported to Android, Windows, and macOS.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and what I really like with NeoChat is what it's integrated inside the rest of the KDE system.
Yeah.
It's using the same style, the same color schemes, the same components, and it's quite. We try to integrate it most of the we could with system integration, and yeah.
Yeah, so that sounds really interesting. Like I actually wasn't really much of, like a KDE fan, but then after, like going through the NeoChat documentation, I found out some, like things to be interesting about, KDE and, like the operating system, the Plasma Mobile and the Plasma Desktop, and, like the protocols that you're using, the Matrix protocols, like to communicate with the different chat applications. I just found that to be quite fascinating anyway. So can you like maybe briefly explain how you were able to put this application together, and maybe some of why you used like some of these frameworks? Because I noticed you had used frameworks such as Kirigami and the Kconfig. So how exactly did everything like fit together so that you come up with this whole experience for the NeoChat application?
The NeoChat started as a fork of Spectral. So Spectral is another QML-based matrix client, and we started as a fork because it was unmaintained, and we needed a matrix client for Plasma Mobile because otherwise it would be a bit difficult to communicate with a phone, where it just doesn't support any protocols. And yeah, Spectral was a good starting point. We replaced, so we rewrote most of the user interface to look more like a KDE application, because before it was more material style. And we made a lot of work on it, so replacing all the notification stuff with the KDE notification library, so that it also work on macOS and Windows and Android. Um, I yeah, and yeah, Kigami and Kconfig are part of the KDE frameworks. In KDE, we use Qt. It's a base framework providing the tools to build a user interface. But over the years, the KDE community built a lot of library on top of it because it was really helpful to share between the application on the Plasma desktop libraries. And for example, Keyami is the library what is used to build convergent user interface between the desktop and the mobile phones. It's similar to libnd in the KDK world. And kconfig is more about configuration management, but that's not really visible for the users. We also use quantification for doing the notification stuff. And I think I'm not sure if you use more. I don't know anymore, but there's 80 of them, and application can choose to use 1, 2, 4, and all of them doesn't really make sense because there are a lot of very specialized frameworks, but some of them are nice because they allow to share code between applications.
Yeah. Yeah, so yeah, I like, like the version, like how you put everything, together and how everything fits together. When you actually build an application and then you put all these pieces together and having it run
Yeah,
and then having to maintain the small different components for each and everything. So it's just really interesting, like the documentation seems to be pretty like, open source, like most of the open source projects out there. I feel like it was one of, like the most clear, like documentation for like the user. So anyway, I actually looked through like some of the comments and people had. So I noticed, like some of the major concerns for NeoChat users was encryption. And I think according to like one of, like some tweets like you shared sometime, yeah, you informed something about how encryption is something difficult and you plan, like doing it right. So can you basically, like share some of the plans that you have in mind or like that are being, like put in place to make sure that NeoChat is maybe secure, given the fact, like the privacy concerns and all that. So yes, what is in place right now for, like the NeoChat users?
yeah. So like you said, encryption is one of the most wanted features in NeoChat because without encryption support, you can't read private message from other clients who
Yeah,
send the
yeah,
stuff encrypted, and then you just can't read it, and it's a bit sad because then you need to open another client to read the message, and then you have two clients open. It's a bit cumbersome. So yeah, I already started including encryptions last month. I have a big aim there to caution the base matrix library for handling all the matrix protocol stuff. And
yeah,
it's encryption is something what is a bit complex, and one of the problems is you if you make some errors, it's very bad for the users because then it's insecure, or they just can't read the message. And yeah, so in the merge request that I started, there's a bit of code, but mostly it's testing because need to make a lot of testing case for to see if everything works correctly.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It takes time, but I hope I will
yeah.
complete that soon.
Yeah, I know, like I noticed, online recently about someone who made a change and then it was merged after 8 years. So I believe, like open source some of these merge requests do take time, but then it's it's worth it if it takes the time, and then what you're merging is actually very efficient, and it's something that you're not going to be modifying anytime soon. But yeah, so I feel like that's something good that you have in place there. And I don't know, like I just feel like it's something that will be really important for like the NeoChat users. So anyway, can you like talk about how like the experience of like the NeoChat application on like Plasma Mobile, and exactly what are you doing to like improve, like the experience of like the NeoChat users? Most of the applications nowadays are more about the experience and how you save your information and all that stuff. So yeah, so what exactly have you done for NeoChat?
I can show a demo of NeoChat. I have it on my phone. So app diese PinePhone and NeoChat. Da. And yeah, this is NeoChat on the PinePhone. So
Yeah,
it works. It's not perfect. I'm mostly focused on the desktop user interface because I use it more. I find the Plasma mobile interface, but it works. I won't say it's really smooth yet. Still a bit of room for improvement, but I can send message and uh, images and communicate with it. So yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Like, up,
Yeah, that sounds
up,
that looks good.
up, up.
Yeah,
A
I
bit
can see that.
complicated to manipulate with no, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that looks good. Yeah, so I think that that's really interesting, like what you've done, with the features. So like, do you have like a target audience in mind, like maybe like how you see Slack is basically like for work purposes or something like that. So where exactly should, like the NeoChat, core users and all that be focused on or something like that?
For now, the core users is mostly Plasma users and Plasma mobile
Yeah,
users. Um, I think the Matrix protocol can be a really good replacement for Slack or the open source alternatives. Um, I think the official Element client, it's really moving into space with the new space features. If you can have the grouping of shades and what makes this I'm really ready for enterprise usage, but for NeoChat, I think it will be mostly for the time being personal users for
yeah,
personal chats and just talking on in public rooms and for development.
yeah. That sounds nice. That sounds. I normally, like feel overloaded, like with the all the chats that could be in like Slack. So I kind of feel like having applications, for specific things is something really good. And because like different applications give you like a different feeling. So
Yeah.
and once you're in chat, it's sort of like this overwhelming feeling of like all these communication groups you're in, and you have to follow up on all those conversations. So yeah, having something specifically for personal, like chat is really nice, especially for like, for someone who feels overloaded with that kind of information. Anyway, so I understand documentation is really important to you, and mainly important for like majority of like the open source projects. So basically, like, what is like your idea, or like what do you have in mind on how to improve, like documentation, and what makes really documentation easy for like, like newcomers, let's say people who are trying to contribute to NeoChat. So what would make them, like feel more familiar with the project if they were like beginners?
I, I think one of the problems we have in KDE is that uh, the Qt documentation is excellent. There's a lot of examples and IP documentation really with a lot of informations. But when you are developing a KDE application, there's often the case where you are using the KDE frameworks, and it's open source, and like most of the time with open source projects, the documentation is not always as good as it could be. And that's why I started a new documentation platform for KDE. It's at develop.kde.org/docs. And it contains a lot of tutorials about getting started with Kagami, getting started with plasma theming, and or specific frameworks about configuration, authentication, and a lot of this sort of stuff. And I actually didn't write a lot of the documentation on this website, but most of it was already existing, but just in so many different places where the user couldn't find it. And that goal of the new website is to really to centralize everything that you have in terms of developer documentation in one place, and making it easy to read. And so but when you are starting looking at the code of a KDE application, or you want to develop a new application, you have some starting points and explanation. And I can send the link in the chat about the documentation platform. But yeah, it's it's using Hugo for versioning, and everything is in Git with Markdown, and it's easy to edit and contribute to the documentation.
Yeah. I have a feeling, like this looks, like well curated, and because I've been through a couple of, like open source environments myself, and one of the things that is I felt like was a big, like turn off for like most of these open source projects was like the documentation wasn't really straightforward to the point, in that they were like, lengthy things. But just like you said, like having good examples and maybe some tutorials, I feel like that's one of the ways like that was able to, like enable me jump up to speed and get on board on some of like most of these contributions. So yeah, I just feel like, yeah, it's really nice what you're doing here. So it's kind of interesting, like to follow up. Anyway, so can you like also share maybe some tips on how to write, like great documentation, and probably some of, like I think you've already given us like an example of what you think great documentation looks like. So yeah, could you like maybe tell us just some of the tips you could share that could enable one to, come up with this informative and yet easy to understand kind of documentation for someone to get started easily?
So in terms of documentation, I think that really important is some step-by-step tutorials. So IP documentation is great because it gives you really all the details that you need to have to really get the power. But for getting started, a step-by-step introduction is always better than just giving IP documentation. This is actually what really all the develop website is about. Is really about the step-by-step introduction about the frameworks, and really giving an overview of what is possible. And then the reader can read more into the IP documentation, but the overview is the most important part. every library should have. It's hard. I know it's
Yeah.
hard to get it. It's not always fun because it's always funner to just write code and the API documentation can be later. But for someone who want to get started, documentation is key. And
Yeah.
yeah, and some advice about writing documentation. There's the Google Developer Documentation Style Guide, and it includes a lot of useful information. I really recommend people interested in writing documentation to read it. So the Google Developers
Yeah.
Documentation Style Guide.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so I have a feeling, like documentation, like making it easier from your opinion seems to be like depending or ranging from like, a person to person basis. Because like some people may find tutorials to be, easier to understand and to get them started. And others prefer, like easy documentation that is detailed and it has some of all the
But you need
things that they
both.
would want to learn. Yeah. So,
You need both.
yeah, yeah.
But
So
for newcomers,
generally,
it's
yeah, yeah. So generally, like if you had both of these into place, I feel like, yeah, it's a great strategy, like to have beginners get started and, like get on board and contribute. So anyway, do you think like documentation plays a role in like increasing the number of contributors? And can you also share maybe some of the other ways or promotional materials out there that could be used for in order to increase like the number of contributors to like a specific project? Like what really drives, like the motivation for like the contribution to a project?
um, it's hard to qualify the number of. I don't have hard numbers about if there was more contributors or not after I made the documentation work. I have some comments on the Kigami channels, what people are commenting about the documentation, following it. So I think it helps, but I'm not sure if these people would have started before the documentation too or not. But I hope it helps. And I think there is no much other ways to get more contributors than uh, making the community friendly, so that you don't turn away potential contributors, and making it easy to find the way. So in terms of documentation for
Yeah.
contributing, but about not just about the coding, but also how to contribute to set a patch, uh, to ask questions, because it's always good to remind people that they can ask questions about if you don't understand something. And these are a bit of documentation, but it's not more the contribution documentation from the developer documentation.
So
Yeah, and
so yeah. So
uh,
you were saying?
no, you can ask a question.
So I was basically, like saying, what exactly would you say some of like, like the promotional materials like could be used, to promote, like activity on like the project, like engagement and contributions, generally just activity.
I think it's a good idea to just not just promote the project itself, but also the contributors to the project in the public, because it's always good to see the face of the people who contribute, and this allows other people to start getting involved uh, because they can see what they are attributed for the change. They aren't just one of the people working on the project, um, but also show publicly what we are contributing to it. So I think NetCram is a blog post about of the change that every week we have a weekly, he make a weekly post about all the change that happen in Plasma. And in every change, it attributes the change to the contributors, and it I think it really helps. Also it's I like this that I started. I saw the blog posts about uh, other change, other people who contributed code to the
Yeah.
week, and then I decided to hey I could start to get into this list, and that's why I said so. Oh, I started with
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
I know, like,
it's at
yeah.
yeah it's hard to explain, but really this
Yeah.
sort of attributing change to the people who make them.
Yeah. Anyway, so I just feel like most of like from what you've said, most of the people use documentation like blog posts as a very, like easy way to like promote the content. And of course, like the shout outs that happen on Twitter and the engagements and all that stuff to, like promote the projects and promote, like the community spirit around this particular, open source projects. So I just find, like in my personal opinion, like this whole, you know, maybe Twitter engagement to be very effective for like the open source communities that I've been in. So I just feel like it's something like I normally follow up on. Yeah, but anyway, so I saw you talked about FOSDEM and what was the impact what was the impact that it had on like your presentation in regards to like the NeoChat application and the usage like did it really help out like grow the community of like NeoChat?
It wasn't really a presentation. It was more like a demonstration of the NeoChat on Matrix or stand, Matrix stand. And it was more like showing the application and discussing with the users about the features and showing all the stuff what NeoChat was capable of. And I think I'm not sure uh, helped being users, but it was quite nice to speak with existing users and maybe potential users about NeoChat and the plan
Yeah,
for the future and discussing.
yeah.
In terms of usage, I'm not sure. Although we don't collect usage statistics, so I don't know if there are a lot of users or not.
Yeah.
I get a lot of issues on GitLab, but are
uh,
those all users or not? I don't know.
Yeah, I know. But then, like what seems to shock me about, like the project is the impact like it will have like on the community. Because like right now, like I feel like NeoChat could be something like I could use or something like that. So I just cannot, like underestimate, like the power of any chat application. So I just feel like it's something that maybe has like power to change probably like the way people use maybe like a certain technology or like driving like another purpose for like the application. Yes.
Yes, the community on NeoChat was quite tight. So I didn't expect that because like 1 or 2 months after I started NeoChat, there was already like 100 people in the NeoChat room following actively the development process and submitting patches. And I really didn't expect that there was so many people interested really at the beginning of the project.
Yeah. So basically, like, how was, like the submitting of the patches, like to the application? Was it like from, like contributors around the globe, and just basically like people who are really interested in, or maybe like you had like colleagues come up together to like contribute to like NeoChat?
There is a lot of really existing KDE developers who contributed a lot, mostly Tobias and Nicolas, uh, who contributed a lot in porting NeoChat to other platforms. And there are already KDE developers since and can contribute to a lot of other apps, but there was also a lot of new developers who joined, who started contributing to KDE with NeoChat, and it's nice. Right.
Yeah, so I don't know, like, so how does the process exactly happen, like with the merge requests and everything? So, like, basically, anyway, so you, you, could you like walk me through like just basically like a small snapshot of what exactly happens for maybe a patch to get merged or something?
Um, we are using GitLab for submitting patches. Uh,
Yeah,
it's what we are using everywhere in KDE, so in event.kde.org. You need an account for it. It's a bit weird because you need to create an account on another website, identity.kde.org. But
yeah,
I'm working on it slowly to migrate away from this website, and then we just have invent to submit patches. And then it's just like GitLab, it's just a merge request, classical. You create a branch, you push the branch into a fork, and then create a merge request.
yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the straightforward, like process for most of like the open source projects out there. So
Yeah,
anyway, I won't keep it. So like maybe you could show like a small demo for like the project.
yeah, I can
Yeah,
share your screen, select Windows, enter your screen. Alors, is my screen shared? Yes, it is.
yeah, I think it's
So
like
yes, this is NeoChat.
okay.
Hope you can see it. It's a demo account, so I don't have all my channels on the left bar, but it also switch the chats. Um, it's responsive, so on mobile it
Yeah,
looks like this, and then you can switch between the views.
yeah,
So normally you can just swipe on mobile, but on desktop it's a bit difficult to swipe. Right, actually,
of course.
maybe.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, uh, and really, when the screen is really large, there's also a sidebar with all the room members, and
yeah,
uh, it supports multiple accounts, so I can switch between accounts without restarting the apps, or a new.
mm,
Uh, we can also explore homes, so discover new channels, start a chat with your pupil, create homes. We have a few settings, like we try to get some ERC feelings with no avatars on the view,
and the
but it's something that I
okay,
disable most
okay,
of the time. Uh, so disable show events. Uh, you can send reactions up, send
yeah,
some emojis. You can
yeah,
send every emojis. You can reply pupils, attachments and emojis. So everything that is basic in chat applications.
Yeah.
Uh, Slash. It's not much, but it allows to chats, and most important is what it works on mobile
Yeah.
too.
I just love how intuitive, like the interface looks. It's just, I think it's pretty straightforward. Like given, like the experience that has been passed on from like other chat applications, I just feel like it's something that, like the user feels like they already know exactly what is happening. So yeah, I
Yeah, we
just love
didn't
that.
wait to innovate. We didn't
Yeah.
try to innovate. It's basic chat
No,
application. We all the classic iteration methods, and yeah,
yeah, but I think it's like a good thing, like because I have a feeling, like there are these kind of applications that innovate, and then you sort of like drive someone off, like they get lost within the system. So yeah, I just feel like this is something really good, and it's a great initiative that you guys are working on right here. Yeah. So anyway, I would like to, like appreciate, like the efforts that you guys have been putting into, like NeoChat. And I would like to also appreciate, like your time for this call. And basically to say, like, I really admire, like the fact that you have put up this application and then it's open source. Like, it's just something that I really feel like it's something cool. Because I mean, like starting a project on your own and then doing this project and pushing it to the level that NeoChat is just really something that is mind blowing. So yeah, that's basically what I.
yeah. Thanks for the interview. It was the IMakeFOSS experience was really nice.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you too. Thank you for everything, and thank you for your time. So yeah, yeah. Have a okay. So yeah, maybe I'm going to like stop the recording now.
Okay.
Uh, okay. Yeah.